What's up? So, today's review, the Super Mario Brothers movie. Let's talk about it. So, I had my reservations about this movie. And it started with, obviously, the voice cast, particularly Chris Pratt being the voice. I wasn't thrilled on Charlie Day being the voice of Luigi either. Jack Black was the only person I was okay with. But having seen the movie, I think I'm pretty. Those are the least of the concerns. That's not really what you have to worry about. I think, as far as voice casting is concerned, particularly for our key characters, everybody is mostly cool. I have no complaints about that. The movie at large is fun. It's visually stunning. It's got great music. I'm going to talk about that. I cannot wait to get into that. Music's fantastic. The story is simple, and I think that's what it needed to be, with hints of more depth, meaning depth in terms of the character stuff. They found the filmmakers found ways to create space to give the characters some dimension, so they're not necessarily one dimensional. Our understanding of Mario, if you've played the games, is it's pretty straightforward. Mario is the quintessential hero, willing to put himself into dangerous situations to rescue the princess or whomever needs saving, and ultimately save the Mushroom Kingdom at large. There's nothing else to understand about that normally. But this movie gives Mario some. There's a couple things that are really cool character wise for Mario. That it's a unique sort of character quirk that he hates mushrooms, given that mushrooms are the primary source of power ups in most Mario games. In many cases, it's the first power up you get in the level, particularly the first level of every game, of most games. A mushroom is it's crucial. So to have him not like mushrooms it's a fun quirk. It's something that's sort of different. It makes him a more dimensional, more well-rounded character. That little quirk. It's like Indiana Jones and him being afraid of snakes, even though he's like the hero. His flaw, is that he's afraid of snakes. Mario, his biggest flaw is that he can't deal with mushrooms, and he needs to eat mushrooms to get bigger. The other thing that's interesting on on a slightly deeper level is that Mario is a character in this movie that is struggling with his sense of self, and struggling with there's a theme of him being sort of persistent, and there's a lot of talk about that theme of him being persistent, like him struggling with himself, but being told that he's persistent, and how that's not a weakness, and it's actually a strength. He's got stuff going on with how he perceives himself based on what his parents think, or particularly what his father believes, and that's interesting too. And I appreciated how that piece is added here, and it doesn't feel off. Like, it doesn't feel weird that Mario and Luigi have parents. They don't feel too old to have parents that are sort of actively in their lives, and so that's kind of cool. That's the other way that the movie has deepened the characters, because you meet Mario and Luigi's extended family. You see the uncles, and there's a grandfather's been there, then his parents are in there. That's really cool, because to my knowledge, we hadn't really known anything about other members of the family outside of people who are sort of tangentially related to, they're like dark versions of Mario and Luigi, like Waluigi or Wario and things like that. Other than that, there's been no one else who's been sort of a part of the Mario family like that. So I really loved that. And they have Mario on a journey to overcome his negative self-talk, whatever he negatively thinks about himself. And I think that's a cool sort of arc to have him on. The other thing that's cool, sort of on the flip side of that, looking at our main antagonist, Bowser, which I think Jack Black is perfectly cast, I think, for this version of Bowser. He is probably the standout in the whole movie. I think he steals pretty much every scene he's in. So I was very pleased with Jack Black's performance. And I think from a character perspective, what they gave to Bowser, it's not a new thing. For if you've seen any of the Super Mario Brothers cartoons, Bowser's pretty one-dimensional. He's a villain. He's going to kidnap the princess so they can rule together, whatever. He's exhibited behaviors that show he's maybe infatuated with her, obsessed with her even. And so these things aren't new. What's cool is that they've given him, it actually humanizes him. The way it's portrayed in this movie, he's less like the big bad, although he can be quite threatening, and it's kind of scary to see him when he's doing bad guy stuff. Because now you get to see him for real. It's like the way I liken it to, I compare it to my first experience playing Super Mario 64 at Toys R Us, and I was in the castle, and I was running through this hallway. You know what I'm talking about. On the first floor of the castle, there's a star door, the big star door. You go to that door, and that leads you to what ends up being the first Bowser level. What's scary is that you're running down this hallway and you see a picture of Peach at the end of the hall, but the closer you get, and you only realize it when it's too late. You get close, and then the face turns into Bowser's face, and by the time you realize that, you fall down the pit, and you're ready to start the stage, the Bowser stage. That was the most terrifying thing to me. I was 12 or 13. It scared the heck out of me to see his face sort of morph. Oh man, turn into that. And I think similarly, I felt like that watching this movie when he was doing bad guy stuff. But what this film does is humanizes him by actually playing up the romantic side of him. We see he's in love with Peach. Maybe he's probably obsessed with her a little bit, and he has a bit of a heart. He has moments where he's sort of nervous, and he's talking to himself about how he's going to approach, the proposal, because he wants to marry Peach, so that they can rule together. And it's actually kind of nice to see. I didn't expect to feel as much as I did when I saw that. And I was like, oh, it's kind of sweet actually to see him be a little bit unsure of himself, and to be, he's singing these love ballads, which is an amazing ballad. I love that song. I think Peaches is an amazing song. I don't know. There's been a lot of talk. A lot of people are talking about how it should be nominated for a Grammy, and I don't know if I put it there, but I do think it's a very catchy song. It's clever. It's well written, and it's expertly performed. Jack Black, everybody knows. We all know he's a musical talent. He definitely gives himself over to this performance, and it's really a gift as an audience member to see. There are so many things to love about this movie. It's ridiculous. So, particularly if you're a Mario fan. But I think the movie works even if you're not a Mario fan. And I'll say this. There's the music was probably my favorite thing about this movie. So many Easter eggs to so many of the Mario games. I just think Brian Tyler did an amazing job with the score and finding a way to put his stamp on the classic music and find a way to get it into a cinematic score. It's kind of cool, actually. So I'm a fan of it. Music was, and it's interwoven into all these different scenes, into the DNA of this film, and it really makes it feel like a Super Mario Brothers situation, and that's awesome. I love that about it. One of my biggest problems with the film, though, is now I was a Luigi fan. I feel like Luigi, in a lot of media in the last decade, probably has been disrespected. I mean, with the exception of Luigi's Mansion, in that great series, I think having him portrayed as a scaredy cat. I understand. Again, they're trying to, have him be different from Mario, and that's cool. But again, if you go back to the cartoon show, the cartoons, Luigi was different enough from Mario that he didn't have to be portrayed as like an uber scaredy cat. That just bothers me to see him so like not in the mix. Now, a lot of people don't like the 1993 live action movie. Now, I actually didn't think it was that bad. It's very unique. It's different than what you might expect from something that has Mario Brothers in the title and junk. But I think um, Luigi is portrayed in a way that he's got a lot more agency. Like he's grounded a little bit, and I think um, it would have been cooler to see him be more active in the situation. And I think maybe that's probably it's for another story probably, and maybe if they're planning on doing future films, which it feels like they might be, that Luigi may have a moment, like a bigger moment in a later film. But I just think that Luigi has been disrespected, and this film is another example of the disrespect to Luigi's character. Having said that, I think he's not a complete slouch. He does have some time, at the end of the film that shows, that actually speaks to his character in a bit. He has got a mini arc. He's scared the whole movie, and he's got an arc where he gets to overcome that, and that's cool to see. The next thing, springboarding off of that, is the fact that this movie is called the Super Mario Brothers movie, and there's not a lot of time spent with the Mario Brothers. That is a little bit disappointing, because at least the 1993 film had Mario and Luigi doing stuff together, getting into problems, getting into trouble together, and figuring out ways together to beat the odds. This film didn't have that so much, and I recognize that in order to have that, you might have had to have Princess Peach get kidnapped, but you didn't have to have that either. Maybe someone else could have gotten kidnapped. Maybe a Toad or someone else could have gotten kidnapped, and they all have to go and rescue that person. But I suppose it's probably not. It probably wouldn't have made as much sense if anyone else other than Toad or Luigi got kidnapped. So I hear it. I just it would have been nice to have Mario and Luigi together more often. And then the last thing I think that was sort of that I questioned about this film was it seemed like Mario wasn't given enough credit for having some level of competency. I recognize that he's new to the Mushroom Kingdom, and he needs to be taught about how the world works there. But to have him so behind the eight ball seemed a little bit not fair. I don't know. I guess I wanted Mario to be a little bit more with it than he was. And this is not to say that Peach being as strong as she was is whack. I love Peach. I'm a huge Peach fan. Any opportunity for any game to play her as, I would do that, because I'm so used to playing Mario and Luigi or whatever. But if you have an option to play as Peach, definitely do that. I just feel like she might have been. She was close to. She wasn't a Mary Sue, but she was close to that. She didn't get saved at all in this movie, and she was quite powerful. I think they had her. She was quite strong. There was almost no moment in the film where she was made to look weak, or made to be the damsel in distress at all. And that's cool. However, I think there might have been a way to do it where she could have been a fighter like she was. She's always been a fighter. That's not a new thing. I wonder if if there could have been a way to do it where she could have been fighting to save Mushroom Kingdom, got captured, broke her way out, and then something else happens and the Mario and Luigi have to come and fix it. But I don't know. I don't know. I just feel like Mario is way behind the eight ball, and I would have liked him to have a little bit more clout. But as it stands, it's not a dig on the movie. It's just an observation I had. I did overall enjoy it. I can't really say that anything. There's no major negatives. These are just things that I might have liked to see These are just things that I might have liked to see be a little bit different. But other than that, this is a fantastic movie, man. I do feel like the third act uh, uh, almost borderline went off the rails a little bit when everything sort of changes locations, we'll say, because now it's how do you fix that? I feel like keeping everything in the Mushroom Kingdom would have made a lot more sense, but having it be as a way to sort of tie things back into saving Brooklyn, while cool, it just feels like it's wow, it's a lot to have things sort of be blended into stuff like that. But otherwise, it's no problem. This movie was excellent. So when I think of video game movies, as well as anyone else knows that historically, video game movies or video game adaptations have gotten not the best energy. We'll say every time a video game adaptation is mentioned, there's always some level of trepidation. There's some level of hesitancy around wanting to experience that property, and sometimes it's warranted. A lot of times it has been warranted, but in recent years, we've seen, with The Last of Us, with Sonic the Hedgehog, actually, which is probably a better comparison, and Arcane, which is another fantastic video game based property. There can be some really good stories based on video game intellectual properties, and this Super Mario Brothers movie is the latest example in that. And I think it's a fantastic video game adaptation, but it's also a great fun movie. It's just it's a fun time. I smiled a lot, chuckled a lot. I had a great time. Even if your references only go so far, some people have played Mario games from the beginning. Some people have played more recently. I think my experience goes all the way up to probably earnestly the Mario Galaxy games. Everything outside of that, like Super Mario Land, I played them too, but New Super Mario Brothers, a little bit of that, Mario Land 3D, all that type of stuff. I haven't really gone as far, and then even Mario Odyssey, which is cool. But to me, the strongest sort of main platformer is the Galaxy games. Super Mario Bros. Galaxy, Super Mario Galaxy is great, and even doubly great because you can use Luigi properly, and he's just as heroic and just as sort of awesome as Mario. He jumps higher. He slips around a little bit too much for me, but that forces you to be almost, you have to tailor your play to Luigi, and in a way that makes you it's almost, it's more dynamic in that way. So those to me probably are the top of platform Mario games, and I love how this movie acknowledges all of that plus a whole bunch of other games: Mario Kart, Luigi's Mansion. If you have not seen the Super Mario Bros. Movie yet, check it out. I think you'll have a fun time. But that's all I have to say for this movie, man. I was so excited to talk about it. I have a review on Letterboxd. You can check it out. The link is in there somewhere. You'll see it. But yeah, thank you for watching, and stay tuned, man. I'll be back again with some more reviews pretty soon. In the meantime, I'm out of here.